everybody, and welcome to the Book Club Pune. Here we are on a Sunday evening with another book to discuss. So, welcome Michelle Mendonca Bambawale, the author, and welcome Mehvash Peerbhoy, who's going to be in conversation with her. Now, when you mention Goa, I don't know what it is about the name of that place, the atmosphere that Goa just communicates. So, becoming Goan, it could be anything with the name Goa in it, and it would bring a smile to my face because it's such a holiday place. It's so relaxed, it's so friendly, it's so warm. All those things. The ultimate place to relax. I mean, I've always felt that even if you didn't do anything particular, as long as you're there, the vibe just gets you. So Goa has been one of our favorite holiday destinations over the years. There was a time when we went there every year, without fail. So lovely to be looking at your book now. Now, when I went through it, I saw that it wasn't what I had maybe expected, because I had expected one of those atmospheric things, the feel of Goa and all that. But yours is, it's more serious than that. It explores, it discovers, it tells you history. So it's a weightier book, in fact, than what I had expected, and which is very good to know. So I'm going to now pass the mic on to Mehvash, and Mehvash will be in conversation with Michelle, and thus we will hear about the book. So over to you now, Mehvash.
Thank you very much. And hello and good evening to everybody who is on this call. I cannot see the total number of participants, but I'm hoping there are a bunch. All right. Okay. So, as was already said in the introduction, Michelle has written this book called Becoming Goan. And in order for us to kind of understand a little, yes, I have mine here too. Ta-da! um, so we yeah, so before we get into the hard-hitting questions that I'm going to ask Michelle about her book, where I just give a little bit of an introduction, if anyone kind of hasn't had the opportunity to kind of finish reading or start reading or anything. So, COVID-19, as we know, I mean, the world came to a standstill, and what happened was there was a huge uh, uh, I mean, not exodus, but like a huge influx of people to Goa, where everyone chose to, instead of work from home, most of them worked from Goa. And Michelle Mendonca Bambawale was one of them, except Michelle was born in Pune, and she spent the first 20 years of her life over there. And after that, she went to Bombay, where she studied, and then she worked for a bit. And in 1993, she and her small family started their expat life. And I say expat because it's a different experience from what we're going to talk about later in this session. So they started their expat life, and they lived in Dubai and Bangkok and in London. And they and in June 2020, and I think Delhi also featured in that whole shifting of their locations.
Also a foreign country for us, Maiva. Sorry to interrupt. Delhi was also a foreign
Delhi
country.
was yeah, so there you go. So but in June 2020, when the whole world was in lockdown and everyone was trying to figure out what to do, Michelle found herself moving to a 160-year-old house that she had inherited in Shirley, a village in North Goa. And she moved there with her husband Bharat, her daughter Divya, her son Kunal, and her 3 dogs. And she moved there in spite of never having lived there before. Like I mentioned, all the places that she lived in, not Goa, not one of them. So Becoming Goan is a heartfelt story of Michelle's love for this land that her grandparents left her, and through the book, as we were discussing earlier before we opened up the meeting, there's a lot to learn about the place. The book is a little bit of everything. You've got a little bit of a history lesson in it. You've got, it's a bit of like things to do in Goa. And also, of course, it's a collection of essays where Michelle talks about her experience. And so so there's a lot to learn about the place, especially for someone who has only ever looked at Goa as an ideal beach getaway and a holiday destination. Um, so a little bit about Michelle. Michelle herself, she's a passionate environmentalist. And so in the book, what you can see is, yes, we have, of course, uh, an SCC member and founding member, was it? Yes, all right. So the book club is also very, very passionate about the environment. And so in her book, in Becoming Goan, we see Michelle bringing to the fore issues about the environmental impact of tourism in Goa, the development, the construction that's happening, the mining, and she does all of this through anecdotes and musings about her life in Goa. All of that, okay. And so she does all of this in this book. And but throughout the book, there is this nagging doubt that that comes across in her voice and which she carries within herself. And the question that I think is big, looming big in the book is: does her Goan ancestry make her an insider, or will she forever remain an outsider who moved to Goa in the midst of the pandemic, right? And so in this memoir, she confronts this complex relationship with her Goan Catholic heritage, as well as explores themes of identity, culture, migration, stereotypes, and labels. And, whether it's the labels that outsiders have given Goans, the Goans have given the outsiders, what have you. All right, so shall we jump into some questions? Michelle, are you ready?
Yes, yes. Thanks very
Yes.
much, Pratish, Mohini, Mehvash, and everybody. It is homecoming because actually I'm from Pune, people tell me, because I'm born and brought up there. So it's good to talk to people in Pune.
All right, okay, so that's a great segue into my first question, which is, so the tagline of the book reads, a contemporary coming home story. Right, and like you just said, this is a homecoming because you're talking to the people in Pune, right? But can so you're born and raised in Pune, so how come your book isn't titled, Becoming a Punekar? Why is it Becoming Goan? Can you just give us a little more insight as to what that means and how you came about writing it?
So I can actually read if that's because it's I think I write it better than I say it. So maybe I should read. Um, it's on page 7 in the chapter, Who Am I, a Real Goan or a Pandemic Migrant? In India, people always want to know, but where is your native place? Where are you from? In work situations, this question is usually a superficial icebreaker, or in social situations, cocktail party conversation. I stumble and stammer. I lived in Pune till I was 20, so that should make me Maharashtrian. But most Indians identify as Malayali, Bengali, Punjabi, and Gujarati, even if they've never lived in any of those states. I guess that's how this works. So going by ancestry, I'm Goan. In contemporary Goa, when I answer the same question, it is met with wonder. You are from here, a real Goan, a local. Goa enthusiasts and Goa files have often asked me about my Portuguese ancestry, my Portuguese house, and if my parents or grandparents spoke Portuguese. I have no Portuguese history, my roots are Goan. The labels I struggle with are Goan, local, Portuguese, migrant, outsider, and foreigner. I wonder what they mean to me. I have some more, but then to answer your question, in this book, I try to unpack complex anthropological theories of identity and culture based on my search for my own Goan roots. I accept that these are constantly developing and I interpret and wear them as they suit my selfish agenda. So I also realize that identity is evolving. And I think, depending on where we are, we try to sort of fit in. Um, And so, it now, I mean, not that it suits me, but I mean, I want to be Goan in Goa. And I think I spent a lot of time understanding what it means to be a Goan in Goa, which was very different to being a Goan in Pune or anywhere else.
All right. So could there be a Becoming Punekar coming up in the future? And would that be something that
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it could be the prequel to this.
your years in Pune? Yeah.
True, true.
All right. So Goans, like you said, being a Goan in Pune is very, very different from being Goan. And again, there are all these labels that are attached to it, right? Goans have been plagued by these stereotypes over the years. Whether it's in Bollywood, movies where you have these just like a drunk fisherman, or so what have you, or just from ill-informed prejudices, right? Like just people come there on holiday. They think what they see on holiday is what Goa is all about.
True.
So what are your thoughts on them now that you've moved there and you live there?
So I realized that I also had a very sort of superficial or biased view, and I was also shaped by, Bollywood stereotypes, because you don't realize how strong the media sort of messaging is. And then you would see these drunks, or somebody wearing a big cross, or somebody wearing a short skirt, and that was a Goan. So you sort of wondered about, the Goan identity and who was a Goan. And everyone comes to Goa and has this great feeling of freedom and creativity. And it is a special place. It is a beautiful place. And I think the biodiversity, the beaches, the greenery, it all sort of makes it a very, very special place. However, the people living here, the two sort of dominant religions, as well as the Muslim community who live here, are very sort of conservative people. They're not at all, people, like, I think when they get onto the flight in Goa, the bus or whatever, they shed their salwar kurtas and put on their shorts and their bikinis or whatever, and they feel that Goa is this very, liberal kind of place. Um, and the truth is that the resident Goans living in Goa are very traditional, very conservative, and live a completely different life that's very different to the life that everyone perceives, the tourists or anyone else. And to me, that was like a big learning, how religious they are, how much they're connected to the land in terms of the seasons, in terms of the importance of, rice and paddy growing and coconuts and mangoes and those kind of things. I learned a completely different kind of world. The other thing I learned was how syncretic it was. Everything, all these festivals and traditions started with worshipping the elements and things like that. And then as religions came, the religions took all the festivals and put their own rituals into it. But the syncretic sort of theme still flows through. That was something else that, you sort of know, but living here, you feel it. So that was the dilemma that I wanted to write about, because like me, I mean, if you're a Goan living in Goa, you know all those things. It's for me, who was an expat Goan, and anyone who comes as a tourist, anybody who visits, anyone who's now come to live, they don't know this rich culture. So that was something else that I discovered, and I wanted to sort of record through this book.
Right. And so big, and of course your experience living there now. So very early in the book, you make some tongue-in-cheek observations, which I really enjoyed reading, and I chuckled at quite a few, about what it takes to be Goan. And of course, just a disclaimer for everyone over here, they're her own made up uh, criteria. But I was wondering, could you just, perhaps maybe read a few and just walk us through a few of them?
Sure. I'll
Uh,
quickly just go through these slides very quickly, and then there's some in that relate to those criteria as well. I won't talk about them, but maybe if I just show them, people will have an idea of some of the themes of the book. So this is because a lot about the book is, based on me coming to live in this house. So this is one photo of the house. This is again the same house in 1989 when we got married and Bharat and I came to visit on our honeymoon. This is after we sort of extended and renovated the house, which we did while living in Bangkok and London. This is like the house now. This is, I talk about the first chapter, which I just read from. This is my family. We managed to take a photo when we moved sometime in 2020. Um, Again, what we spoke about, I'll just quickly go through these. These are illustrations from my book, also done by Rutuja, who's also from Pune. Uh,
Yeah, you all know Peter, right? Peter of the Storytellers. His daughter illustrated the book as well. So.
So this, which brings us to these my made up sort of categories for being Goan. Um, so you speak Konkani is one. Two is you notice car number plates and are suspicious of every car that does not have a GA or Goa registration. You have at least two dogs and or two cats. You may also have some pigs, hens, goats, and cows. You eat fish at least 5 days a week, if not seven. You know what is seasonal, how it needs to be cooked, fried or curry. You know what fish is available in the market that day, how much it costs, how fresh it is, just by looking at the gills. You can recognize not just the fruit, but also the leaves of the mango trees in your neighborhood. You know not only your own trees, but also your neighbors' trees. Who has the best Mankurat, Mangilad, Maldives, Bishop, or Fernandine? You track the flowers every year. You you covet your neighbor's Mankurat tree, even breaking a commandment. You have an encyclopedic knowledge of all local flora and fauna and can identify birds and their sounds. You know exactly when the Urak Feni season starts each year, and you have the best source. You drive for hours to get it, but it's worth it. You brag about your source, but don't share the contact as it's a closely guarded secret. You insist that only yours is genuine, the real stuff. You sing with great gusto in the shower, in church, at all celebrations, in a choir or in a band. You play at least one musical instrument, usually a piano, guitar, violin, or drums, and you love music. You have a love-hate relationship with all your neighbors and your family. You're either not talking to them and or you know too much about them or both. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer is the mantra you follow. You know how to make or who in the village makes the best coconut oil sausages, vinegar, bibinka, shakuti, and samarache masala. You know which gado has the best street food, cutlet pav, choris pav, roast omelette, and patal bhaji breakfast in your village or in the state. You have no interest in any other food or cuisine and look dismissively as new restaurants and cuisines debut in Goa each year. You religiously follow and play football and support Brazil in the World Cup. You have a good appetite for and a very strong opinions on local politics that you're always willing to share. You get your news from the local papers, usually O Heraldo, and on news channels, often Prudent Media. And then I will go with this one. You have a healthy distrust for all outsiders. And outsider is a generic term used in Goa that covers anyone who's not Goan by ancestry, does not discriminate based on socioeconomic status, how long you've lived here, if you speak Konkani, have the required legal government identification and documentation, or own property. It's somehow beyond that. I have this banner sort of to illustrate it because this I visited a village here where there was a big development, a project coming up of luxury villas, and they were cutting into a hill. And the people got together and they fought it and they won the case and they stopped the development. But I mean, unfortunately, the belief is only outsiders, destroying the hills. It's not only outsiders. But this is just the sentiment in Goa, which is
Yeah.
which is sad, but it's the reality over here.
Yeah. Uh, I know that we moved into a slightly serious interpretation of that. I mean, we led into the destruction of the hills and all, but I want to just come back to that list that you read, and I wanted to know, um, do you have do you fit all these criteria now, or are you still to meet a few of your own criteria?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm not going to dye my hair black. There's one criteria, so that I'm not going to do, but I'm trying on the others. For me, I don't speak Konkani, so that's something I'm working on. I mean, because of Marathi, I can get by, uh, but that's another sort of struggle for me in my becoming Goan.
Yeah, because you seem to be, I mean, you have your Michelle's organic coconut oil, you clearly have a Fanny
Yes, I
ship,
have
you
mango
have three
tree.
dogs.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
you're kind of making your way through that list, I'd say. But
Yes, yes, that's
yeah,
the aspiration.
yes, the aspiration. So, coming back to now the last slide that you just showed us, like you said, there's so much development happening, in Goa, and you've been visiting Goa since since the 70s, uh and I know, and I'm sure it's safe to say that there has been a vast change over the years, right? Like I see it in Pune. I grew up in Pune, and I've just moved back, and it's so different from what I remember it. And so I'm sure that that's the same thing with Goa. So what are these, like this villa thing, if you could maybe talk a little bit more about that, or
I'll
any
also
major
show
changes
you
you observe?
again. They are huge, and I mean, one of the motivations for writing this book is was how much the changes, especially in the village where I live in Chioli and just very close to my house. So again, I'm going to use the opportunity to show you some visuals, because I think I've written about it in the book, but if you see these visuals, it sort of helps with the storytelling. Again, these are illustrations that I'm just running through. This is from the chapter, Seoli idyllic holidays in the 70s and 80s that I write about. Different anecdotes about my parents' wedding photo, trips to Tirakal, which was 2 ferry rides away and took a long time. Now it's, the bridge, 2 bridges, and it goes fast. So I think development has come at a cost, and many people in Seoli regret the bridge because it brought the North Goa beaches accessible to everyone, and so Seoli became sort of the road to get there. This is a chapter which is hard. This is a photo that I took. Um, this is the reality of traffic. It's not different to, a big city, and we've all come here for a so-called better life and a village life and things, but we are in a sort of not a village and not urban. Um, so the development I was talking about, every time I leave my house to walk my dog or to go anywhere, I'm dodging these water tankers, because water is a huge scarcity, and a lot of these building complexes are coming without a water supply, so they've supplied with water tankers. The same thing, there's no sewage system in the villages, so sewage tankers, garbage collection is a problem. There's stray dogs, stray cows. The worst are these JCBs, which you see and hear everywhere. Um, this is the story of a beautiful old Goan house that was round the corner from where I live. And I don't know, was on half an acre, 1 acre. This picture was sometime in 2021. This is the picture now. This is what it's going to look like in the future. Again, luxury swimming pools, no parking, and in Goa we have no public transport, so that's the price we're paying. I have now made a video. I don't know if you can see it, which is this same luxury project. I don't know if you can hear the JCBs, which you will see in soon.
No, we can't hear any audio.
You will see now.
We'll
Oh,
see.
Okay, if you can't hear the sound, maybe I didn't click that thing, but they you can see the JCBs and you can see the cement mixers and things. So these were all like, just open plots, and there's some of these which are old houses which are falling down, and now because property prices are rising, people are bringing them down and putting luxury developments. I have a whole chapter on Portuguese property law because it's very complicated. This is a scene, the poder is taking his bread. So this whole area, which is a narrow road and which had open green, is now just got developments. And then here you'll see all like a lot of garbage and construction waste just piling up because it's not sort of organized, it's not properly managed, I should say.
क्या निकल रहा है?
Like Pune, we're doing the same to it.
Exactly. It's all the big cities, it's unplanned development, and this is like the Goan Goa where they're trying to dry rice. They've harvested the paddy and they're drying rice, which is what they use the space for. So, I mean, I just trying for you to see, I talk about the many different Goas. So it was just like a visual of it. Again, very quickly, this is what Kalangut Beach was, some visuals. I talk about it in my book, and I'm sure many people who were, not you, Mehvash, you weren't born, but the rest of us, used to come to Goa. This is what it looked like. This is a picture from 2021. This is a story now because of this whole sewage thing. The sewage is not treated, so it's just being pumped into the beaches, and they're all this, I don't know. So it's awful. Anyway, so that's what I talk about in one of the chapters, which is, a part of Goa that you don't see or you don't know when you come as a tourist, and which you discover here the hard way. Then there are many different Seolis and many different Goas and many different people who live here. I mean, there's the tourist Goa, there's the hippie Goa. Now there's an Instagram Goa, which is, people come and it's become a bit of sort of people are getting very aggressive and taking pictures, and residents are suffering because they are trying to go to work or take their kids to school or have dinner, and there are people like at their door, in their door, lying on the road, leaning against the walls, dirting the walls. So, I mean, this is the price, I think, of tourism. And there are two spots which are very, again, influenced. One was that Para Road, which was influenced by Deers in the Ghee, which is a popular spot, and now this whole Fontainhas area, which is very pretty, and people think they're in Portugal. But this is the other side that you don't see of people living there and how much they struggle. And
Yeah.
then this is the Goan Goa. These are the fields that everybody loves and comes here for, and rice paddy. Okay, I'm going to stop. We can continue the conversation. I don't think you want to see any more slides, but
No, we're happy to. So we'll see what we can when as the discussion progresses. But I like how, I mean, I like how you have a different category for Instagram Goa now, because I mean because that's exactly what it is, right? The influencer trends are just in fact when we were in Goa in January, yeah, for Raj's wedding, right? And somebody asked me, they're like, "Oh, have you been to the Deer Zindagi Road? They've renamed the road."
it's called Deers in the Ghee.
Yeah,
And then
it's
you land at the airport, there's a big picture. So people are going there, and it's become a big
Yeah.
problem of if you live there, you can't physically drive to go to work or take your kids to school or walk
Yeah.
your dog or whatever you were doing. So
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting to get, because I don't think a lot of people when they go to Goa, they I don't think they realize that people have day-to-day lives there. Like this is, people go to school, people go to work, people, whatever it is, they're just trying to live their lives, and then they have these influencers taking pictures. Okay, so You did mention that the Portuguese property law is tricky, and I know that you get into details of it in the book. But I want to come to a little bit of the village life, because, like, you're a big city girl, and you've lived in Pune, Bombay, Bangkok, Dubai, London, Delhi. None of these have rural vibes. So
No,
how is
they
the
and they did
Goa
not
village?
prepare me for living in Goa. It's a very different
Right.
life.
Yeah. So I wanted to just, talk about that experience, because you do cover that in the book. But if we can have a little bit of insight in this conversation, it would be, I think,
So
interesting.
I talk about it and I live it because it's very different. And this whole thing about people who moved in the pandemic, like me, and many people who moved to live in Goa, own a second home or want to own a second home. I think we don't realize the reality of how hard it is to live here in the village. First of all, the monsoon is brutal, so it rains very heavily. That has an impact on your house, your furniture, your electronics, and things like that. Also, living in a village, you have a lot of sort of creepy crawlies that you live with. Like, I mean, I have stories in that chapter on dealing with monkeys and lizards and monitor lizards, and my dog Haruki, who's in fights with all kinds of dogs, and harvesting mangoes, harvesting coconuts, managing your house. Every day there's some sort of disaster that happens because a tree will fall or a wall will fall or something will happen. So I think I have sort of learned very fast and I'm still learning. And for me, my neighbors have been very helpful and, trying to support me in this sort of mentoring me. But it is a transition. And the other thing is that things move very slowly here in Goa. There's this relaxed kind of life, which is the good thing, but it's also very frustrating when you're trying to do a lot of things, manage your house, and now working also from here. So it has been a transition, but I'm learning.
Yeah. So because I can't imagine that it's easy, like you said, if the Susegard lifestyle is so prevalent, it can't. How do you all manage like a professional work from home while still kind of being the chill, while still leading the chill Goan life?
So I also have I mean, I contest this Susegad in my book, and many Goans contest it who live here because they feel that they can say it, but nobody else can say it because I think the connotation has become, not very complimentary, like you're lazy or you're laid back, whereas either it's actually you're sort of content and have a slow pace of life. The concept of which I talk about, which is falya, which is tomorrow, which is like why do today what you can do tomorrow. That is very frustrating because it takes a very long time to get things done. Um, you just have to accept it because otherwise you'll just be very sort of frustrated. But I mean, it is changing. It is changing. So there is a sort of balance, I think.
And do you think it's changing because there's an influx of outsiders who come in and expect faster services and things like that? Or
Yeah, yeah. So it is changing, but I don't know if it's for the better because I mean, there's a lot of aggression and things which people don't like. It's, they're very polite and gentle and things, but now have also pushing back. So I think that is the sort of drama that you see in terms of people taking Goans for granted, but Goans standing up for the land and standing up for the rights and things
I
like
mean, yeah,
that.
clearly that's not, I mean, it's not a laid back and lazy attitude.
Not
If
at all. Not
people,
at all.
in fact, I think recently, I think I saw that you've attended a protest recently, right?
Yeah, yeah. Right now, like in the beginning of March, I wasn't here, but they cut a lot of very old trees. They cut like 35 trees, including 4 huge flowering mango trees. So there was a huge protest. It was for road widening.
Mm.
That's
Apparently, they
exactly like what's happening in Pune.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's everywhere. And people finally, they went and asked for the paperwork Because I mean, I don't know, in Pune it's the same. You can't cut a tree in your own house unless you have forest department permission.
Yes,
And
yes.
I could not cut a dead tree. The tree, poor thing, had died, but I had to cut it. And getting permission for a dead tree was also a runaround. These people, huge, beautiful, flowering mango trees and trees were cut. So people protested. They asked for, the documentation. It turns out there wasn't any. And they managed to, people gathered on the streets to protest over there. And it was a very good community because everybody, like, people who'd moved here, people who'd been here, and every day apparently more people were joining the protest. And finally, the thing is that with the protest and with the press, they also presented it in the court. And they got a hearing very quickly and they managed to get a stay order so they could stop because apparently 35 or something were slaughtered, but they wanted to slaughter another 120 more. For a very short thing, again, from the bridge to, where it is, because there's traffic congestion and there are ways of managing traffic without cutting trees. You don't have to widen the roads. You have police, you have traffic lights, you have parking. I mean, there's a system that you use without cutting trees.
Yeah.
So people really fight, I have to say, and Goans, they great pride for the land, and they've really been fighting. And so this whole Susegad thing is always very contentious. So this is what happened right now. It was in the front page of the newspapers, and other villages have also been fighting for different issues. The thing is, everyone has a different issue, but this was a very public. It was very public and very prominent, and thankfully, it was stopped in time.
We haven't been able
Not
to. We've been fighting
no,
for that.
Pune, yes, yes. Okay, so you mentioned earlier about being an expat Goan, I mean, being a Goan Catholic outside of Goa. And so, what I've trying to notice with expats in like different communities, right? Like I know that I know a number of like expat Muslims who would be, in like a Christian country are more they hold on to their faith and they hold on to their, even Hindus. Like I know so many people who like went in the 80s and they have, more elaborate celebrations for like Ganesh Chaturthi and all, which even like Indians have kind of let go of a lot of traditions like that. So I just want to know, like, has the Goan Catholic experience in Goa been very different from what you've kind of experienced as a Goan expat, like living outside of Goa as a Goan Catholic?
It has, because it's been here, a lot of the traditions are connected again to the land. So there's, the syncretic, like I spoke about. So there's a blessing of the fields. There's another one to build community where a statue of Mother Mary is taken from house to house. All the sort of traditions for weddings and for funerals and things are very similar to Hindu traditions, which had, I think, originally started with the elements and fertility, and they all sort of evolved from there. So I think I learned the origins of many things over here, and also many different, very religious. Over here, the Catholics and the Hindus are very religious in terms of all the feasts and festivals they celebrate, and they celebrate them very often and regularly.
All right. Yeah, so I figured that would be a little different. And okay, before I open up the floor for questions from the rest of the members attending, I mean, it's always nice to know about experiences that writers have gone through to kind of get their books published, because I know there's a bunch of us who who might want to write or have been writing and want to know how to kind of put their work out there. Of course, self-publishing is one route, but how else do, I mean, anything that you would like to tell us about how you got your story out there?
Writing experience for me was not, I think, what I should recommend, because it was very emotional and it was not very, as they say, I've now heard, too terms. People are pantsers and people are plotters in the writing world. People who plot and have an outline and a plot and a characters, and people who pants, who write from the seat of their pants. And I think I am a pantser. So I wrote whatever I thought and I wanted, and I had some outline. And I had been blogging in the pandemic, and then I decided, people were like, oh, why don't you write this book? Because you're in Goa, everybody's moved to Goa, how is Goa changing, and things like that. So I thought of writing a book. I spoke to a friend who is in the publishing industry, and he explained this whole thing of getting a literary agent. So I write a proposal, which includes who am I, why am I the right person to write this book, an outline of the book, chapters, sample chapters, a list of all the chapters I was going to write, and I had to send it to a literary agent. So I sent it to a few literary agents, and I was rejected because it was too personal. And then I kept on writing because I felt I had a story to tell. I thought even if I don't get a publisher, I will self-publish, or I'll write it. I'll write the story. Then I did find another literary agent. I kept writing to literary agents. There are about, I think, 10 or 12 prominent literary agents in India. So I wrote to one of them who accepted my proposal. And then she got me a contract with Penguin. And the editors in Penguin, they helped me with, crafting my story, because I wanted feedback on the book and the narrative arc and how to develop it. And so they really helped me with that. So that was the story of getting published by a traditional publisher.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Michelle. I have exhausted my questions for this discussion. So if anyone else would like to
After,
please go ahead.
thank you very much. Hello, can we say ha? Thank you very much. Enjoyed that. Didn't realize all the problems that you had to surpass. My memory of Goa is 45 years earlier, or 47 years. What is it? No, 46, 47. Then Mohini and I went for a honeymoon there. And it was completely a different story than what you would have. And I remember Mohini will tell you the story of going to Mangeshi temple. Also one of these days we'll talk about that, how we did it. Hired a motorbike and went and whatever. But coming back,
many people came for their honeymoon there, including Bharat and me. I have a story about the scooter ride we had in Goa in my book when we came on our honeymoon, which is now 35 years ago. It was a very different place.
I'm talking 47 years ago. We came on a honeymoon 47 years ago. And it was so very different. It was like heaven on earth, where we would sit and discuss with the cook outside restaurant how he would make his meal. And Mohini didn't want to eat a certain type of fish. He persuaded her and made her that was not on menu. Made her a personal. And well, we used to travel around on some borrowed a motorbike or not, or sometimes we would go back taxis. And we didn't know the way how they call. What was it called? Mapsa, mapsa, mapsa.
Yes.
The buses, they still do that.
Yeah, I mean the spellings, like I remember we wanted to go to a place which seemed to us called Agasim. And we went to this taxi stand and everyone was calling Aksa, Aksa, Aksa. And we thought, okay, they're all going to Aksa, but will they go to Agasim? And, we would go to a cab guy and say, hey, we want to go to Agasim. He says, no, no, I'm going to Aksa. So Aksa. And then we realized, oh my gosh, they're the same place. It may be spelled Agasim, but it's pronounced as Aksa. What
Yeah,
a
yeah.
revelation that was.
All of them, all the places are like that, and people really struggle because how it's written, how it's pronounced, and is, very different. And the
Yes.
spellings are all, the Romi Konkani and the M is used and H is used, and it's all very difficult to read and understand.
So,
Kolwa, in
Michelle, there was
Kolwa Beach, we were the only people wearing swimsuits those days.
those were the days. Yes.
In those days,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I felt so awkward wearing the swimsuit. Oh, well,
Now we know some secrets.
so one day, when we had been to Goa almost every year, for the next 10 years, and Satish, me and Sona, our daughter, were sitting at a restaurant, wishing we didn't have to leave. And there was this, Goan family there, very relaxed, having a good time. And we sort of joined up with them and we were chatting. And we said to them, you're so lucky, that you live here. We have to find time and travel here for a few days of the year. And they said, yeah, that's what you think. You think you'd like to live here? So, yes, we would love to live here. And they said, don't even plan that. And they gave us the inside story about how boring it can be, how restricted living can be.
Yeah.
And they said they were sure that we wouldn't like it if we shifted there full time. Yeah, I mean the image that outsiders get when we take a peep in is this holiday bonanza kind of place, a paradise on earth and all that. But there is a reality, I dare say, that and you, Michelle, you've done a great job of pointing out that reality in your book.
That was the idea, yeah, how different it is, the different perceptions, because everybody has a very romantic, story about Goa, and the reality is fast changing, and I felt it was changing very fast. The pandemic was like a big trigger, so that's why.
Yes, come on, folks. Ask your questions, everybody. Put your hands up. I'm sure we have all been to Goa, and we all have our concepts and notions and memories and images. And I'm sure Michelle has shown you in her book that Goa is not only that. That's one side, that's Goa too, not that it isn't, but there is more to it than that.
Sheena, you have just come back from Goa.
And
Where
Sunita
are you,
also
Sheena?
very lately. Okay, Sheena, let's hear you first and then we'll go to Sunita.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for your talk.
Hi, Sheena.
I have your book, and I'm very proud to say that I have a signed copy.
Oh, wow. Where
A
did
signed
you get
copy,
it
how did you
from?
manage that?
I was in Dubai, and you were
Hi.
going to Solanki book
Welcome.
stores, I think, in January. And then I sent a message to Anand Solanki, and I said, please get one copy signed for me. And he did it, So, yeah, I'm lucky. So I collected it when I came back. I went to Goa. Of course, like everybody else, we have been several times. But this time I got my wish because I always wanted to have a Goan Christmas. And 2023, that's exactly what happened. And I was able to spend Christmas in Goa and loved every moment of it. Regarding social media influencers and all those problems that some places have in Goa, I think first you should blame Bollywood, Michelle, before you blame the tourists, because it is Bollywood who starts all these problems, making things infamous or famous, and then people go there and then it becomes a problem. Having said all that, I have just started and I'm on chapter 4 only, so I don't have much to ask or say, but I'm enjoying it. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sheena. Yes, I do blame Bollywood. I have blamed Bollywood, and we must blame Bollywood for creating the stereotypes and creating the party kind of world that it has.
Michelle, Chetan attended your session when you did it earlier on the book, and I think he shared with you that we have friends who've been telling us that we should buy a house in Goa, and and we've all been rolling our eyes, and they really sold it to us, saying how Goa has become this international place, and if there's one international hub in India, it is Goa, and how beautiful it is, and how we can do our storytelling there, and how it's not as touristy as we think it is. But I know that he had that conversation with you, and you were telling him not to come. Not that we were going to buy a house in any case there, but yeah.
Oh,
No,
we-
I wasn't telling him not to come. I don't want to be someone who's trying to keep people away. I just want everyone to have the whole picture of, the reality in terms of the development and the construction and the sewage and things like that, which I think people don't talk about because they sell you the beautiful Goa, which is fast changing. But I think there always has been an international community, I think from the hippies and things like that. So there's been an international community in Goa for a long time. So it is a beautiful place. It is a multicultural place. But it's all coming at a price. And I think what Chetan said is like, we go for holidays. I'm like, yeah, you're better off just going for a holiday because maintaining a house is another whole thing, which you probably don't want to get into. It's not worth it. He said, I'm never going to leave Pune, so why am I looking at it?
I've felt that I should move to Goa very, very often. I've thought about that, but said, okay, my anchor is down here in Pune, so we'll continue to be there and go. Larry Malarka, I think you know. Larry is a close friend of mine.
You mentioned, yeah.
We stayed at his house 4-5 years back. Fabulous time it was. You should be able to stay doing nothing, be with friends, doing nothing, drink, cook something yourself and work. It works very, very well. And of course, Larry is an excellent cook.
Okay. It's actually changed post-pandemic. It's not that laid back. But I think Larry lives on Diwar, and people in Diwar are fighting not to have the bridge. They're really fighting because they don't want the development.
Very good.
So they don't want tourists. They don't want people to come. So people in Diwar are fighting. So
great. That's the way to do
hope it lasts. Yeah.
Michelle, just wanted to ask you about, the murky side of Goa, meaning that every now and then you have these deaths, a girl raped and just left on the beach. There was that girl, what was her name? Scarlett, I think? She was called
Scarlett.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
These kind of things seem to happen.
Yeah.
Any comment on that?
It's horrible. I have no comment. I mean, I don't know what to say in terms of how to stop it or how to. It's the whole underbelly which is very alive and well here, and which people don't talk about or don't see. It is gruesome, and there are drugs and rape and all these horrible things. So it's sad, but it's true.
And I think people need to be aware of it and look
absolutely,
after themselves, be careful.
Absolutely.
It doesn't do to just sort of go in with your baby blue eyes kind of wide open innocently. You need to look. In fact, that Scarlett episode, that girl was 15, for God's sake.
Oof,
Wondered,
that is really...
did her mother leave her and go off with her boyfriend somewhere else? I mean,
I don't know. I have no comment on this whole thing because I don't know what happened and I wasn't here. So, but it was horrible.
Yes. And these things happen now and then. That's also part of reality. Anna, I wonder if you have anything to say?
Yes, unfortunately, I came in very late, so I didn't hear about the book, but I shall certainly purchase it and read it because I am very keen to know what Michelle has to say, because I also have very deep roots in Goa. with my mother having come to Bombay in just about before the Second World War, sorry. So
Okay.
with a passport, because you couldn't come from
True.
Goa to, yeah. And
True.
I mean, I've heard all her tales about slaves, and I mean, not house slaves, not field slaves, because we are from North Goa, and also how the caste system impacted them, even though they were so Catholic, you know. Uh, like her sister was about to get married to a man who was doing very well. He was a merchant, you know, between Africa, because Goa, I mean, Portuguese had colonies in Africa as well.
Of
And at the
course.
last minute, the priest came and told her mother that you can't stop this marriage at once because this guy's a Shudra. It was such a shock to us. We thought Catholics had nothing to do with the caste system, you know. And they did stop the marriage. And poor thing had to give all her wedding dress and a trousseau to somebody else. So that was a real shock.
You should
We
write a
escaped.
book, I think, Anna. You have more gory stories than me. I have not got into this deep underbelly of slaves, and I have mentioned the caste system with a poem by Eunice D'Souza, but I haven't really got into it because it's just, you know, distasteful, so I haven't. But it
Yeah,
exists.
no,
You're right.
yeah. It's not very well known that even the Catholics have a certain
I
amount
do
of.
mention it.
Yeah, I shall
But
certainly
just,
read
yeah,
the book.
yeah.
Yeah. There was a book. What was it called? Skin, was it?
Skin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was about South Goa. That was a fabulous book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for your book. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Thanks, Anna.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michelle, there was a book called Poxam, I think, recently. Have I got the word right? Poxam? Is it? It's where.
I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, sorry, I'm sure I've got it wrong then. But it's Goan families who take a sort of a distant relation who may be in distress and sort of adopt that person, ostensibly to keep that person as a part of the family, but then use them as servants.
Yes. Post-care.
Post-care, okay.
Poskem. Is that
All
the
right,
book you're talking
Post-care.
about? It's by Wendell Rodrigues.
Yes.
It's by
Yes.
the designer Wendell Rodrigues.
Yes. Which is why I think it got so much exposure. And I picked it up, because of who the author was. But I sure hadn't known about the system. And it's apparently very common. Have you come across it? Have you come across anyone who has?
Yes, I did read it. I did. So I don't know people personally, but it does. It has happened and it exists. And I think his book was, a good sort of explanation of organized tradition as well. I wrote mainly from my own experiences and what I knew. So there's a lot of the underbelly, as you mentioned, that I haven't really got to because it didn't affect me personally. So I didn't write about them.
So you've decided to stay and go up for keeps?
Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yes.
I think
Yes. It was a beautiful, very sensitive narration of your book and so empathetic about Goan life. I wanted to know if they have, a lot of literatures and people who write classical drama, and we know that music, dancing is part of Goan life.
Part of
A
their
lot of
character.
class of, they have a clash of the DJs and that kind of music, but something which comes from their history. Do they have people who write
There's a lot.
drama?
There's a lot
Yes.
of Goan literature. I can actually send a list,
Yeah.
of books that I have read and I sort of are useful to read, I think.
Okay, that
There
would
are
be
lots,
great.
a lot. Yeah. There's Damodar Mauzo who got the Jnanpith last year, who's a very well-known Goan writer.
Also, right.
He recently at the Goa Arts and Literature Festival, his Konkani book was translated by Jerry Pinto. It's available. It's called Boy Unloved. And he has another famous book. I think he got the Sahitya Academy Award for it. It's called Carmeline.
Wonderful.
Then
Wonderful.
there are many others. There's
Could you send us the thing?
I will send you a list. I have both
please.
many Goan writers, translations, as well as Goan expat writers who write about the Goan diaspora. A few very good books that I would recommend. I will send you a list.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks. Thank you. It's an excellent
Salit
presentation.
Dhanji, I think is this your first time with us at the book club? We'd love to hear from you.
Michelle, I would just like to have some detailed experience of yours where you said you had a lot of difficulty settling in, where you mentioned heavy monsoons, precories, and other problems that you faced.
It's everyone. I mean, the monsoon is really brutal here. So it has an effect on your house and a lot of things.
The sea looks beautiful. I remember watching the rain come splashing down there, and Moini and I were just completely.
You can just sit and look at the rain and the sea forever. You know, it's so gorgeous. But I can imagine. I mean, it must be taking a lot of energy to preserve things and.
It is of the mold and the
yes,
things
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
So Michelle, thank you so much. We meet actually. We have decreed that we shall meet once a month, but that once a month definitely becomes twice. I
can see that. I was added to the group. They're very avid readers on this group.
And it becomes 3 times also sometimes. And
wow.
I sort of try to not make it, every week, because that's what we used to do. And we're not doing that anymore. So
and we have people from Hong Kong here to Detroit on the other side.
Wow.
People from all over the place who come. Now, we have a very loyal member in New York. Unfortunately, today she's not here. That's unusual for Virginia to not be here. But I wonder what's up. Anyway, so Michelle, thank you so much. I always feel that the author, when available, just makes the hugest of differences to the discussion, because we have.
Thank you for having
wonderful
me.
having you. And also a book which is current, just recently released, has its own urgency and buzz.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad.
Also, it discusses contemporary issues. So it's some a part of it is to create some sort of awareness. So it is useful.
Absolutely.
So people look at Goa with a slightly different lens, or a more educated lens.
What a change!
Better informed. Yeah.
What a change over the last 46 years. What it was then and what it is now.
Satish is not able to get over his honeymoon. He is just going back to it.
But honestly, such golden times those were.
Absolutely.
The first time I went to Goa, I didn't know what Goa was. So I had this large suitcase, with evening wear clothes and all that. I didn't wear anything, talk about evening wear. So following trips were, very light. And I love the informality that you can just walk in from the sea and walk into the restaurant and sit down and have your meal and go out again, and so on and so forth. Just no place like Goa. There's something in the air. It's not the only beachy place, obviously.
Absolutely.
Just something there that is so marvelous, and you come back really relaxed.
And I don't speak Konkani, but they managed to understand me completely and welcome me everywhere. I don't know why. Maybe I look.
Yeah, because he speaks Marathi with the Konkani rhythm,
Good. A little bit of a sing-song Marathi is good.
Yes, exactly. Sing-song.
Right. So thank you very much. And Mehvash, thank you so much for being here, and for, this in conversation thing works very well also, I feel.
Absolutely. Mehvash is very good.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to do it, and I think Michelle leads the discussion well. So
thank you.
It went nothing like having the author. That's the
Yeah.
ultimate, absolute ultimate. So we really had the we had the author, we had this current novel, we had the buzz, the vibe, the urgency, everything. Thanks a lot. We enjoyed it very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you so much.